Okay, so I've had a further read through this one today, just to get a bit better of an understanding, as yesterday's video seemed a bit rushed, it didn't seem that good quality. So hopefully today we can fix it up, make a better understanding of what's going on here. So is the ACCC's mandatory news media bargaining code. This is one of the most boring reads I've ever fucking had in my entire life. Holy shit. This is, I think it's 34 pages. What the fuck? How many pages is this? 32. 32 pages of absolute shit. It's so fucking boring. I'm going to try and break down for everyone, try and make it quick, and try and make it, a bit entertaining and a bit relevant to what's actually on here. So, where do we start? There's probably three main points here. So, first point is what the monetary compensation is going to be for legacy media. So in this document, between about page 7 and about page 8, it's talking about the monetization of what's happening at the moment, or what they want to happen, sorry. So it covers a little bit here about, I think I'll read it out for you. Where the digital platform obtains value directly or indirectly from a content produced by news media businesses. Fairly negotiated with news media businesses as to how that revenue should be shared, or how the news media businesses should be compensated. So they're saying here, at least my interpretation of it, so take that as you fucking will, is saying that the legacy media are the ones who get to dictate how much they're going to be compensated. So the news media, every time they upload a video, they get to say exactly how much they are going to get paid for that. That is total fucking bullshit. And in case you're wondering how you do that, very simple. You just have to be creating content that earns you more than $150,000 a year. So if you're doing that, you can qualify for this. And you've got to be telling the news, whatever the fuck that means. One of the second points, I believe it's on the data. This is on page 18, I think it is. 16, page 16 here. This is absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts. I think it goes here. This point is probably the most relevant point on the whole page. It does go on for 2 pages here, which is the most amount of pages of any one topic in this entire 32-page fucking document. It says right here, the data is far more extensive. I'll start from the beginning, okay? It is also noted that the volume and quality of user data available to Facebook and Google is derived from users. Obviously, we gave them all of our data. Now, users' interaction with all content available through the digital platforms, products and services, which is broader and more diverse than just news content, of course, as well as user data collected outside of the platform and services, including with third-party websites, which can then be associated with users' accounts. This data is far more extensive than the news media businesses can ever acquire. No fucking shit. News media businesses' lack of access to this data, or at least some of it, hinders their ability to precisely target content and advertising to news audiences. So they're a bit upset that because they don't have all of our data, they can't properly target us with ads. Fuck off, Rupert. Fuck off, legacy media. You're telling the news, apparently, is what you're claiming, so you don't need to know what else we're doing on the fucking internet. You don't need to have our fucking data. You don't need to have our search history. You don't need to know what sites we're going on. You can just tell the news. And if we want to come read the news from you, we will come and do that. You do not need to precisely target content towards us and advertising towards us. If we want to come read your news stories because we think they're valid, we will come do it. But we all know that their shit that they're spinning is propaganda, and no one gives a fuck about it. That's why fucking YouTube of this world is succeeding with just normal people going out and telling the news because it's fucking better than anything the legacy media is pushing out. All right, the last point, and this is probably one of the fucking funniest points on here. It's about the algorithmic curation of news. All right, so one of their biggest claims here. Fuck, where did it go? I think it's page 21. Yeah, here we go. Page 21. Fuck me. This is honestly one of the most boring fucking documents on there. So I'm not even going to read it because it's just the language is so fucking dull. Basically, it's right here, page 21. I'll link it in the description below if you want to go read it. It says here that they're upset because of this thing called original journalism. Now, this original journalism thing is quite a valid point. So it goes something along the lines of the first journalist who is targeting a specific report or news venue is going out. They're putting in the time, the resources, and the money to cover the story in as much detail as possible and make the perfect story. And then what happens is once that's released to the public, then other news sites and other journalists and YouTubers and etc. can then piggyback off that original story and then make money off it without doing any research, just basically relaying what that original journalist has put out. And this is apparently costing them a decent amount of money. Now, to argue for this is very strange. You know, it's very hard proving that those other journalists haven't also put in the hard work to discover that. It could be obvious if someone's just reading from what the journalist has said, but majority of the time, people out there are doing their own research before uploading their own content. Now, one of the best points here, which I'm going to cover, is on page 22. And it's this little bit here. And this is brilliant. So their whole argument here is that they must have Google, YouTube, Facebook's algorithms so that they can properly predict what the algorithms are so they can put their content up and make it as relevant as possible. So that this original journalism bullshit doesn't happen to them. Now, if we read this little bit here, you notice these are all massive paragraphs beforehand, massive paragraphs. And then this final paragraph, which is very fucking tiny, it's about three lines long. It goes something like this. Google has recently acknowledged the importance of this issue to news media businesses, legacy media. On the 12th of September 2019, Google announced that it had made changes to its search algorithm to better recognize original reporting, surface it more prominently in search, and search means Google, by the way, in Google, and ensure it stays there longer. So the Google algorithm, which is the YouTube algorithm, has already acknowledged this, and they've already changed it so that it avoids this happening, okay? So their whole fucking premise, which they go on for about 3 pages here, is that this isn't happening and that the original media is getting ripped off. So almost everything in this entire 32-page document is just bullshit. It's just bullshit. So that they can get control of the algorithms, so that they can put their articles at the top because they know what the algorithms are, so that they can hijack them and put their media up there. They want to get their money, they want to get paid whatever they determine their content is worth, regardless of what the internet says. Internet being Google, Facebook, YouTube, etc. Twitter, I don't know what else is on there. All right? And they're trying to get a fixed paid amount from that. And then the third one is they want to have all of our data so that they can properly target us with fucking ads and tailored news content. It's not fucking news if it's tailored towards us. So it's just contradicting itself the whole way. All they want is internet supremacy. And it's very fucking obvious in this entire article. Everything they're doing in this whole fucking document is to get control of the internet. Because the internet is freeing up and allowing just regular people to become journalists and to build up a user base based on telling actual fucking factual news, that is undercutting all of the legacy media that currently exists, because no one fucking watches it anymore because we all know what bullshit it is. So now the internet's come along and just swept the rug out from under their feet. And now the legacy media is just looking like a bunch of fucking retards. And now they're trying to get legislation passed where they can basically get full control of the fucking internet and all of the users' data. This is absolutely fucking absurd. And I'm so glad this document is online for free for everyone to download. I'm going to link this, so please go fucking read it. It's the most boring document you'll ever read, I promise you that. But holy fuck, it just lays out their entire plan of trying to take over the internet. At least here in Australia. It's absolutely fucking disgraceful.